The 30th of August, Rabbi First, Parsha Hashavua with Rashi.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Lou. As Lou mentioned, this is Rabbi Shlomo First Yeshiva Talmud up of you showing here on Zoom. We're learning Parsha with Rashi, as Lou mentioned. We are Parsha A, Erev Shabbos, Shana Tavshin Pei Gal. Okay, I think let's begin with something very, very relevant. Yeah, I think we'll start here in Perek Tes Vav, Pasuk Zion.
Test of Zion.
Okay.
All right.
Good morning, Roy. Are you with us, Roy?
Yes, I'm with you somewhere.
Oh, it's good to see you. How have you been?
Ah, Baruch Hashem, I'm not too bad. Very bad, very sore back. But I've been looking after my wife. She's Baruch Hashem, she's home. I've just made her a cup of lemon and water to drink. And otherwise she's Baruch Hashem, she's all right.
Okay, good, Baruch Hashem. Glad to hear.
It'll take a while before she's fully functional, but what about yourselves? You?
Fine, Baruch Hashem. We've been missing you. No, I'm glad to see that you're back. Okay, as I said, here in Parshas A, in the Perek Tes Vav, Pasuk Zion. Maybe we'll start with that.
Yes. Oh,
Did I read or you want to read, Roy?
sorry. Tes Vav Zion. I got Tes Zion. Tes. What's Tes? Tes.
Tes Vav, chapter 15, verse number 7.
Tes Vav. Verse 7. I think I've got it. Yeah. Yeah, I think I've got it. Did it start Ki Hashem Elohechem Elohecha? Is that it?
No, Ki Yimicha Evyon.
Ki.
Chapter 15, verse number 7.
Oh, yes. That's Vav, that's 6. Zion is 7, yeah. Ki Yeh V'cha. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, thanks. I've got my Zion and my Vav mixed up. Oh well.
You want me to read?
Lou, you want to read? Lou, you want to read?
If there shall be a destitute person among you, of one of your brothers, in any of your cities, in your land that Hashem your God gives you, you shall not harden your heart, nor shall you close your hand against your destitute brother. Rather, opening you shall open your hand to him, and you shall grant him enough for his lack, which is lacking for him. Beware lest there be a lawless thought in your heart, saying, the seventh year approaches, the year of release, and you will look malevolently upon your destitute brother, and you will not give him. Then he will call out against you to Hashem, and there will be sin upon you. Giving you shall give him, and let your heart not feel bad when you give him. For because of this matter, Hashem your God will bless you in all your deeds and in your every undertaking. For destitute people will not cease to exist within the land. Because of this, I command you, saying, you shall open your hand to your brother, to your poor one, and to your destitute in your land.
Okay, let's see Rashi here.
Okay. Let's see, let's go back to 7. If there shall be a destitute person among you, whoever is more wanting takes precedence of one of your brothers. Your brother from your father takes precedence over your brother from your mother. Your cities, the poor of your city take precedence over the poor of another city.
Well, this is two separate things apparently, no? Te'ev koidim. All right. So what does that mean? Te'ev koidim.
Whoever is more wanting takes precedence.
Okay, so that's number one. Right, that's number one. Who needs more takes precedence. And then the next Rashi is, right? Echad me'achicha.
Right? One of your brothers. So you already know who to give more to. You give more to the one who's poorest. So what do you need the rest of it for?
Right. And you have the question. Let's say a person has a relative that's needy, but there's someone who's not a relative who's more needy. Who comes first?
It would seem from this the more needy non-relative.
I say that again. I didn't hear you completely. Say it again.
I said from this it would seem the non-relative would come first.
Apparently, because it's listed first. I mean, that seems to be a general rule. The one who's most needy comes first, and then if everything else is equal, then apparently if everything else is equal, then you give to the one who's closest to you as a relative.
Right.
Right.
I've learned differently.
Yeah, the what?
I have learned that it's the second list that comes first. That you give to your family before you give outside your family, for example.
That has to, in terms of halacha, you have to check that out in halacha. Just in terms of what the pasuk's doing, right? There's a pasuk. The pasuk is giving us a general principle. The one who needs, let's say a person has a relative who needs he needs shoes, but there's someone from the outside that needs food, right? So clearly, the one who needs food takes precedence over the one who needs shoes. But on the other hand, if you're supposed to favor the one who's your relative first, maybe you're supposed to give to the relative who needs shoes first before you give to the outsider who needs food. Right? It's from the way Rashi's saying it based on the pasuk. The pasuk seems to be, the Torah seems to be indicating that in general, the general principle is whoever needs most comes first, regardless of their relation to you. But in terms of halacha, in terms of halacha, you always have to refer to the Shulchan Aruch, in terms of what the exact halacha is. Just
Right.
in terms of what we see in, it seems to be that the general principle is the one who is most needy comes first, or maybe that's a general principle within the subdivisions, meaning first general rule is whoever comes is most needy comes first, but the ones you always have to evaluate are the ones of your relatives first. Again, it's not 100% clear. Not 100% clear.
Maybe it could be that.
Excuse me.
Sorry, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe it could be that if there be among you a needy man. Now, among you, what's it mean by among you? It could be among your family. It could be just your family among you, or among you could be among in your city, or in your whole the whole country. So if there be among you a needy man, the most needy has his preference, and then it could be the next bit there, one of thy brethren, that could be clarifying what needy man means. It could say, if there's among you a needy man, in other words, one of your brethren, with any of thy gates, one of your brethren that's near to you, in a position that's sort of not difficult to get to, so not overseas, for example. And then you should make yeah, so it might be something like that.
Yeah, I mean there could obviously it's not every situation is obviously different, right? That there are many different types of scenarios, and these what the Torah is telling us here with Rashi is just a basic beginning of our understanding what's required of us. Right? As the Vilna Gaon says, it says, right, the pasuk says, right, lo tifkots es yedecha. Don't close your hand, like you keep your, like you hold your hand tight like a fist. You see when you hold your hand tight like a fist, right? So all the fingers are equal. You see how it is? All the fingers are equal. But when you put out your hand, right? The fingers are not equal. Fingers are not equal. That means when you give, right? You have to give each person according to what he needs, right? When you're holding back for yourself, right? You give yourself, right, equally. You give to yourself equally without consideration of what you really need. You give to yourself minimally. Just take for yourself minimally. When you give to other people, you give according to each person, according to what they need. Yeah. Okay, let's continue on with the Rashis.
You shall not harden. You have a person, i.e., there can be a person who is pained over whether he should give or not give, i.e., he is torn between the desire to give and the desire to keep his money. This is why it says, you shall not harden. You have a person who stretches out his hand to give and closes it. This is why it says, nor shall you close. Against your destitute brother.
No, what's that? So I'm not sure. What is? I'm not. I don't get the Rashi completely over here. Yesh lecha adam sheyitztarer im yitein im lo yitein. I don't get it. He's what's he troubled over? What's he troubled over? What's bothering him? In other words,
He's stingy. He doesn't want to give up his money.
Yeah, but so what does it mean? Im yitain, im lo yitain. If he gives, if he doesn't give, it should be. If he's simply stingy, he's mitzvah. He's troubled if he gives. It troubles him to give. So what does it mean? He's troubled if he gives, if he doesn't give. I don't get that. What I don't get
If he
the
if
second
he
the not
if he gives
not giving.
if he gives, he feels bad because now he doesn't have as much money. If he doesn't give, he feels bad because he knows he should give. It's a mitzvah.
So he realizes it's a mitzvah, but it's a hard mitzvah for him to do. No, something like that.
Right. He's going to be unhappy no matter what happens.
So maybe that's very good. That's very good. He's getting a lot of reward. The more difficult it is to do a mitzvah, the more reward you get. No, isn't that that's good? No.
Yeah.
Hmm. I've got here that there are people who painfully deliberate whether they should give or not. So scripture says, thou shalt not make thy heart obstinate. And then it says, there again are people who stretch their hand forth, showing readiness to give, but then close their hand. Therefore it is written, you shall not close your hand, nor close thine hand from thy needy brother. I don't know whether that means that he shows that he's willing to give, but then changes his mind, or he's not really ready to give. He's just pretending to.
Okay, so all right, so I see that there's a little bit. There's not too much explanation about this. A little bit explanation. Says here it says here it's based on a sifri. It's based on Chazal here. Again, as Rashi quotes, right? As Rashi quotes, and as we know very well, Rashi in general is not going to make things up on his own. He's in general going to quote for us what Chazal say about these things. So you have Yesh la'adam mitzvah im yitain im loten. There's a person that he's going to get. He's going to be mitzvah if he gives or he doesn't give. Either way, this person is going to be in tzar, right? Either way, apparently that's what he's being said, right? There's a person. Either way, this person is going to be in tzar. Perish al imut salev muzar ha'adam kishalibo noite l'rachim shil yisoiv es levavot. That we're being commanded about the attitude he's supposed to have. That when he's inclined, when this person's inclined to give, right? He's inclined to be merciful and to give. Lo yisoiv es libo, meaning below yachmetz, the save, Rahman Malibo. Don't subdue the Rahmanis that you have in your heart, right? Yesh lecha adam shepashtu yadu v'chol zevi kaputz ezeh. There are those that people that initially they want to give, right? But then they apparently have second thoughts. About it. Meaning, don't if you have a good intention in your heart, right? Don't change your mind about giving. Huh. Okay. Okay.
I assume that this also applies to women, not just men.
Yeah, yeah, so yeah, yeah, of course. That's obvious. Women have a mitzvah to give tzedakah too, although if they don't always have their own money. They may be married and not have their own money. The money belongs to a husband. Um, okay, let's continue on. Let's continue on.
Against your destitute brother, if you will not give to him, your end will be to be a brother of one who is destitute, i.e., to be destitute like him.
This is like an own. This is a punishment. What's the?
It would seem so.
So it's like a punishment that if he has the ability to give and he's not going to give, then it's going to be it'll backfire on himself. Okay. All right. Apparently, seems pretty clear like that. Okay.
Okay, opening you shall open, even many times. Key,
Meaning,
opening you shall open. See now that the word key functions here in the sense of rather.
right? This is a command form, right? This is a command form that you might think that well, you gave him once, so you have to give him again. Yeah, no, yeah. If he's asking for you again, give him again, right?
I've got here that key has got is used in three different ways. Here it's the meaning of but. In verse 7 it means if, and in verse 10 because.
Yeah, this word key is a very versatile, very
Yes,
versatile word.
yes.
Okay, very good.
Grant you shall grant him. If he did not wish to accept money as a gift, give it to him as a loan.
What is it? So what does that mean? Meaning he doesn't want to take money as a gift, right? You find that some people that they don't really want to take money as a gift. They'd rather take a loan and pay back the money that you give them. Sometimes it's better to give a person a loan, right, than to actually give them an outright gift.
Mm.
If they have a loan, so then they'll be more responsible, right? They'll think of ways to generate money to pay back the loan. Whereas if you give them a gift, then they can sometimes become dependent upon the gifts.
They also could be
Which,
saying, the Shemitah is coming and I don't have to give.
but that's coming up. Yeah. Go ahead. Let's see what you go ahead, Roy. Go ahead. Very good.
Yeah, just say so. So I don't have to give back. I don't have to pay back anymore. So I can keep my 1,000 shekels.
He's concerned about not getting his money back, right? You know, Shemitah's on the way, so he knows that he's going to have uh, an issue, a prohibition of asking for his money back.
Hmm. What do you call the the loan that you give on that you say?
The Prose Bowl,
Oh, right. Oh,
Mhm. Yeah, that's a rabbinical injunction, which allows us to collect the debts in any event. You should know that people make a mistake. It's not that the money is not owed. What Shemitah does, it makes it illegal for the person who's lending the money to claim the money against the borrower. But really, the borrower still has a moral obligation to pay back the lender. Right? The money is owed, but the only thing that Shemitah does, it removes the legal recourse that the lender has to claim the money from the borrower. But really, the money's still owed. That remains a debt.
No,
That really has to be paid.
no, I thought like it was what you were complaining, but I thought it was that was nullified altogether.
No, it doesn't nullify the loan. It only nullifies the legal recourse that a person has to collect the loan. But morally, the obligation still is incumbent upon the borrower to pay the debt. Yeah.
So it would work out that if the person needs to pay, doesn't pay the debt, he says, I don't have to pay, even if it's a moral thing, I'm not interested in it, then he'll have to be interested in how long above.
Yeah, that's a question. That's a question whether a person is if he's not chayiv, because in this world, but still in the world of Ruchnius, does it amount to the fact that he didn't pay his debt? He had a debt to pay, and it amounts to a fact that he didn't pay his debt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something to bear in mind. After all, I mean, take a look at it from the lender's point of view. The lender lent the money in good faith, right? Assuming and hoping that it would get the money back, right? So reasonably speaking, why shouldn't the lender get his money back?
Right.
If he wanted to give a gift, he could give a gift, but he obviously wasn't interested in giving a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's continue on with the next Rashi.
Enough for his lack, but you are not commanded to make him rich. Which is lacking for him, even the horse upon which to ride, and a slave to run ahead of him.
What's that? The Deiches again. Let's see go back one more Rashi from where you started.
And you shall grant him, if he did not wish to accept money as a gift, give it to him as a loan.
Okay, let's see next Rashi.
Enough for his lack, but you are not commanded to make him rich.
No, so what does that mean? You're not supposed to make him rich.
Well, I think there's a tension between this Rashi and the next Rashi, which says even a horse upon which to ride and a slave to run ahead of him, because that second Rashi seems to imply that if he was accustomed to riding a horse and having a slave run ahead of him, then you've got to help him to be able to do that, continue to do that. But on the other hand, that's not a need. From an objective standpoint, person doesn't need to have a slave running in front of him. You might say he needs to have a horse to ride on, but I don't think anybody would say he needs to have a slave. And so the first Rashi seems to imply to me that you don't have to provide the slave. You just have to provide him with what he needs. Now, what he needs is to a certain extent based on what he's accustomed to. So if he's accustomed to, eating meat every day, for example, and riding on a horse to get around, and now he can't afford those things, you've got to provide it. But there's a limit,
Right.
it would seem.
It could, I was bothered by the same thing. It could be if the person is not a rich man, you're not obligated to make him a poor person into a rich man. But if you have a rich man, you're obligated to maintain his level of his standard of living, no?
I would think no. I think that's what he's saying, that you're not obligated to make him rich. His standard of living is that he's rich. It would seem to me that you're not obligated to make him rich. But when it says you have to provide a slave, it would seem to me you are obligated to make him rich.
Now, just what about the person who is donating the money? If he himself is very rich, or if he himself is poor, then you have a different obligation, I would imagine. If you're a poor person, you certainly wouldn't be obligated to make yourself much poorer by giving all of your wealth to the man who once was wealthy, so that he could be wealthy again. And if you're a very rich man and you wouldn't miss it, then maybe you are obliged to reinstate the poor man to be rich again.
Yeah, because because the day mechsoro. See, that's what Rashi's explaining. What does it mean, day mechsoro? To fulfill his lack, right? You have to fulfill his lack, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what the pasuk's commanding us. You have to fulfill his lack. So it doesn't. So Rashi says it doesn't mean you have to make him rich. If he's not lacking being rich, you don't have to make him rich, because he's not missing that. He's not missing being rich. But if he happened to be rich and he happens to have been used to having a slave and a horse and chariot go before him, so that's what he's lacking. So you're obligated to fulfill his lack. I mean, if that's our mitzvah. I mean, again, everything we do is because it's a mitzvah this is what Hashem wants from us. So if Hashem wants from us to fulfill his lack, so again, it'll depend. If he's lacking being rich, so you have to make him rich. But he's not lacking being rich. He never knew and experienced being rich. He never was rich. So you're not obligated to fulfill that, because that's not a lack that he has. A lack is something which he had, and now he no longer has that. And so that would make a difference. Let's say you have two people collecting, right? Two people collecting. One's collecting he wants to have a slave and a horse and chariot, right? Where he needs his Lexus, right? His Lexus is a year old now, and he has to buy a new Lexus. He used to buy a new Lexus every year. He used to drive the year-old Lexus into the showroom. He said, okay, what's this year's model, right? Okay, let's roll her off the track. And he'd get his new Lexus every year. So this guy doesn't have a new Lexus this year. He's never driven a more than a 1-year-old Lexus in his life, right? Never. And the other fellow, he's just trying to get food for Shabbos, just trying to get some challahs and some a piece of chicken for Shabbos. So who are you supposed to give to first?
The one that doesn't have the food for Shabbos.
I guess, right? I guess because he's more needy. Apparently, he's more needy, right, than the other one. But let's say I have money for both, right? If you have money for both, so you're apparently supposed to give money for both. This fellow needs a Lexus, but that's why he can't drive around in a Volvo. That's not going to satisfy him to drive around in a Volvo, especially a used one. He said, "Listen, we don't have much money for Lexus, but we can buy you a secondhand Volvo." He's going to be terribly embarrassed to drive around in a car like. Wouldn't you, Roy? Be embarrassed to drive around in a secondhand Volvo?
No, I'd be very happy. If he's going to be embarrassed, that's another point. Because you're not supposed to embarrass anybody. So if you're saying embarrassed just as a matter of course, rather than meaning that he really would be embarrassed, then I mean,
you're not really causing his embarrassment. You're trying to save him from being embarrassed, right?
Yeah. So you're involved with it.
Well, if you have the ability to remove his embarrassment, this person's going to be embarrassed if he doesn't show up, at the country club. He's going to show up at the golf club with a Volvo. How can he drive a Volvo to the golf club?
Mm-hmm.
They won't even let him in. They say, "Who are you? Are you one of the workers? You're a new worker here?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you want to be a caddy. Oh, you're one of the caddy. You're a new caddy, huh?"
Mm.
So he's embarrassed. The guard at the head of at the golf course, he says, "What? You're a new worker here? You're a new caddy over here? You park over there. You don't park over here." So you're just saving him from embarrassing him. You're not by your own action embarrassing him directly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. Maybe we have time for another Rashi. Let's see a little further.
Okay, let's see. I think we were up to for his enough for his lack. You're not a commander to make him rich, which is lacking for him. Even a horse or to ride on a slave owner. Okay, we've said that. Lo, for him. This is a wife. And similarly, it says, I will make him a helper against him. So this.
That's right. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say this. I'm just looking at the context. It says, you shall grant enough for him for his lack, which is lacking for him. So the last for him is redundant. And it's telling us that it refers to his wife.
He gets a wife.
Meaning he does not have a wife, right? But so he doesn't have, maybe he doesn't have enough money for a wife to support a wife, to marry a wife. So you have to give him enough money, right? You have to give him enough money to get himself a wife.
You get married.
And yet he didn't have wife to start off with, So that's not a lack. It's only a lack because he hasn't got a wife, full stop. But it's not a lack because he had a wife and now doesn't.
Well, you're asking a very big question. You're asking a question, right? I mean, if he doesn't have a wife, so just like if he wasn't rich, you're not obligated to make him rich. If you didn't have a wife, you're not obligated to get a wife. But let's say he had a wife and now he doesn't have a wife. So that would make a very big difference in what's going on here.
But also with a wife is not it's not a Volvo. So if you didn't have whatever, if he didn't have a wife, if he had a wife but now doesn't have one, you have to know the reason. You're not going to provide him with a wife if he's going to have the same reason that the wife left him, for example.
Maybe she left him,
Yeah,
the hardship that they were going through.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if she died, that's one thing. But if she sort of wanted to get because he was cruel to her or something like that, you wouldn't want to supply him with another woman to be his wife and be possibly under the same circumstances.
right.
But a car is something different. You can mistreat a car and it's not going to leave you. It may not work for you, but you know.
Yeah, this point, this is a difficult point here about the wife. I see our time is up. We're not going to be able to go into this too much detail right now. All right, I have to look into this a little bit more about why is it that I understand the point about the wife, but how it fits into what the context of what we've been talking about, that needs a little bit of work. All right, look, needs a little bit more investigation about that.
Rabbi,
All right, thank you, Roy. Thank you, Lou. You should both have a good Shabbos, and hope to see you both the beginning of the week next week, Yom Rishon.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be around for the beginning of Sunday. Maybe later on for the later. I don't know. But anyway, next time I see you. Next time I see you.
Next time we see each other, we should see each other, right? That's okay.
reminder, next week we're going to be back to having a weekly newsletter.
Oh, yeah.
Next week. Yeah, okay. Yeah.